Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. And we have been talking about the age verification and attestation for a while. I always like starting this with a little description as to clarifying the terms that we're talking about because you hear about age verification and that means something different. The bill as it's written in Texas is written a whole lot different than the bill in California. California's is technically an age attestation, which means that the person setting up the operating system gets to choose without any external force what the age of that particular device is. And if we're going to have any of this dystopian nonsense, I would prefer an age attestation because it does give the parents the ability to set up a device for their children, for the parents that actually care, and are not abusing their children digitally. It allows them to do this. Now, jokes on them, all of your main platforms already allow you to do this. So these laws are utterly nonsense until we get into the age verification as the bill is written in Texas, which the age verification bill means that an external party has to verify the information that you are inputting is correct. And that is dystopian nonsense. And this is why it seems like all the conservative states tend to be pushing the age verification, whereas the more democratic states tend to be pushing the age attestation versions of the bill. And to be clear, both of them are bad, but I'd prefer the attestation versus the verification if that is the thing. But we covered last week that the Colorado bill passed with the carve out for FOSS, but then there was a question about whether or not the GPL3 license actually fits on that, because the way the ruling, the law is written, it basically says as long as it's written without any contractual obligations, in the GPL3 license has the a carve out for requiring extra contracts, which is what is at the center of the Only Office, Zero Office, Nextcloud debate. And so there's some questions about the interpretation of that, especially Clause 10 of the GPL basically says that no, you actually do not have to enforce these things. Like if somebody says, hey, you got to include this, 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 or this, unless it's some legal requirement, like, there was a court case that says this must be included in this type of software, you don't actually have to do that. And that's kind of what Clause 10 says. And so the question is does that GPL 3, is that qualified or not qualified under the Colorado bill? Well, the California bill, which had already passed before it even comes into effect, which is January of 2027, actually is getting an amendment put into that bill, which will actually do a better carve out for Linux, is specifically mentioned, and other open source redistributable and modifiable applications without the contractual clause in it. That has actually been amended into the California bill. And so we're going to be looking at that, and then why none of this matters anyway. But let's go ahead and have a look at the Linuxiac article here. California bill adds open source carve out to age verification rules. Again, California 1856 is an age attestation, not an age verification. I like getting that right because one of them says an external company has to verify what you're saying is true, and the other one says that it is just up to the user to input it and results be darned. Although once enough people are doing the attestation, eventually everyone's going to flip to the verification, because this is not about protecting the children. This is about dystopian collection of data and knowing exactly who's doing what, to be completely clear. But they amended California Bill AB 1856 to exclude Linux distributions and other open source projects from the state's OS level age attestation rules. I'm going to correct the article as it says that. Key change, however, is the bill now adds an operating system provider does not include an entity that distributes an open source operating system or application under license terms, allowing the recipient to copy, redistribute, or modify the software. So we have a very good carve out for it. Of course, that's because these bills were not written with, these people, if you handed them a random phone and said, identify the type of operating system on this, they would look at you like a cow looking at a new gate. Huh? Like these people are incompetent, clueless retards writing all of our laws. And frankly, I think in this digital age, you should have to have a digital competency to even hold that office. If I say, here is my phone, tell me the basic type of operating system on this. If they can't look at it, look at the screen and go, oh, this is an iOS device, they have no business writing laws, because it would appear that they wrote these bills with the major vendors in place. They wrote these bills so that an Android operating system with the Google Play services installed in the Google Play Store is the monopolistic way to get your software, has to know what the age is of the end user so it doesn't download an application that is harmful to that particular user. And that makes sense in a world where Google and Android are your only options, or where Windows wants to force their verification on everybody. They're getting rid of their phone number SMS two-factor, which is great because that's a useless way to get into a system. It's very insecure. But they're basically doubling down on biometrics and passkeys, which the average person doesn't understand or does not feel comfortable using their biometrics to log into their Windows computer. So these lawmakers are basically do not even realize something called Linux exists. They do not know that software exists out there, even though there's a Supreme Court case which basically says, yeah, you cannot force a programmer to write something they don't want to write, which all of these laws in the scope of the United States is a direct violation of the First Amendment anyway. Go figure. But that's okay. These people want to destroy that thing called the Constitution as it is. So in practice, the amendment appears to exclude most community and commercial Linux distributions from the definition of operating system provider. This approach distinguishes the California proposal from a broad OS Age Attestation mandate that would apply equally to both proprietary and open source platforms. And so there is good news in that. Now, the better news about this is there is actually an agreement between a number of left-leaning states that effectively anything California does, those states come behind it and work on implementing the law. This is why when California comes down and says, by 2035, we are going to ban gas guzzling cars, and then 20 other states come right behind it within a year or two and put in the same type of law. That's because there are a number of states that will simply do whatever California does, which in and of itself is stupid, but that's the way it is right now. So there is a little bit of good news in this, in that a majority of states might have specific carve-outs for this going ahead into the future. And so that is certainly a case. But there is some discussion here. Some of this actually comes from UK's Ofcom. This is the same group that keeps on threatening like Kiwi Farms and 4chan, I think, causing the 4chan's lawyers to do the most trolling thing ever and send them a declaration saying, hey, if you didn't know it, we signed our independence from you in 1776. So here's a picture of a giant, was it a groundhog or something? It was some rodent tearing apart a city, saying, we are an American company under American jurisdiction. You don't have any authority over us. Go screw yourself. You don't like our stuff, ban it on your end. They don't want to ban it on their end, though, because then they'll be accused of having the Great Wall of UK, But out of this, there's some discussion about all this age gating. TikTok, YouTube, and Roblox face scrutiny, but age gates won't fix child safety. From Ofcom here, notably TikTok and YouTube failed to commit any significant changes to reduce harmful content being served to children. Maintaining their feeds are already safe for children. They're as safe as they can be, which is why the parents need to be the one regulating this, not Ofcom in the UK regulating YouTube and American companies' feed. Screw off. We don't care. Okay. And I don't care. Like, if there's something there that's a bothersome to me, I just click and either, if it's horribly bad, I might report it, or I'll just block the channel. And if I had children, well, I wouldn't be letting them on this stuff anyway. But that's the point. Like, we do not need a nanny state trying to protect our children. That is what the parent is for. But the parents aren't doing it. This is why we need digital parental neglect laws. Yay! Okay. Yeah, that could be abused. I understand that. But so can your children by the likes of AI field content creators. So, I think that Skibbity Toilet and 6767 has harmed far more children than abusive parents. Okay, it has basically created an entire cultural young society of illiterate retards. You know. And the BBC reports that an Ofcom survey found 84% of children 8 to 12 are still using one of the major services with a minimum age of 13, despite the age gates. Oh, the humanity. That's the parents' problems, not Ofcom's problems. Sorry. So in Roblox, Guardian reports U.S. advocacy groups have formally requested the FTC investigate them for what they call unfair and deceptive practices. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Roblox should exist in its current form. There should not be any form of internet-connected game targeted children that allows random people from across the world to talk to each other. Children should have no ability to communicate with other people as the core feature of a game targeted towards children. Okay, now if they want to get on your MA-17, is that the rating? Whatever, the mature rated video games, and their parents don't care, well, that's why we have, we need digital neglect laws, parental digital neglect laws. So there you go. So Roblox is already implementing new age-based safety measures. Young players are adept at circumventing these protections. Usually it's just a Sharpie and drawing on a fake mustache. Cybersecurity point of view. So what keeps them up at night is another angle to the problem. Many proposed age assurance solutions require users to hand over government IDs or biometric selfie data. We've already talked about that in the blog: age verification, child protection, or privacy risk. So age verification systems create massive data collection opportunities that become prime targets for all sorts of things. It's just like, oh, but we delete the data immediately. Discord said, and T said, and T for him said, and a bunch of other places. The entire Italian government said, they leaked all their information out as well. So when restrictions push younger users towards smaller or less secure sites, the kids then will encounter worse things. This is why I do not agree with any of these hard age verification things on porn sites. Okay, again, parents, protect your children. It is very possible as a parent to put in a custom DNS that blocks all of your major porn sites and many of your minor ones as well. The problem is if you make it harder, do you think the kid is going to just stop? Oh, I guess I can't get into the famous PH. I guess we'll just go outside and ride bikes instead. Oh no, they are committed to their sin. Okay, they are committed to their debauchery. They will find a way. And if they cannot get onto the PH because the parents are not monitoring what they're doing on the internet, they will find darker, worse, and less regulated places that they cannot even take down. So it's better to let them have the little bit of the devil that has a seasoning of safeness to it, rather than get them into if they try hard enough, they might actually encounter something like snuff and hardcore or something crazy, and that would be really, really bad. Okay, so the problem is, of course, parents, keep your children off the internet. And this is not Ofcom's job. It's not the government's job. It's your job. So safer systems that beat stricter age gates. Protecting children should focus on building safer digital experiences. The only viable path forward is because stronger moderation actually removes content. So they're basically saying, hey, tell Facebook and YouTube to have actual better moderation. Systems that are actually good moderation systems, not AI bots that take down legitimate content while letting ElsaGate content proliferate upon the YouTube children's app. Okay. Again, just, let's not normalize children being on the internet. There's another thought. So apparently it doesn't really matter what we do because the kids are getting around it all anyway. And, there's not much more you can say about any of that. So it is good what California is doing, but all of this age attestation, age verification, it's not helpful. It's not useful. It doesn't help. What's going to help is when we can sit down and say, look, get your children off the internet. Let me know your thoughts about all that in the comments down below.